What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my unit review and builds guide for Holst. So he's a Gen 7 sword infantry unit with 187 BST and he has got warrior sword as his preferred weapon. This weapon gives him +3 attack on top of his high attack stat, and the condition of this weapon is pretty easy to meet. You just need to be above 25% HP and then he can get +5 to all of his stats in combat. He also gets bonus doubler and he also inflicts guard on the opponent. So keep in mind that this bonus doubler is in combat, so it will stack up with the bonus doubler Sacred Seal, and that is easily one of the best Sacred Seals that it can run on Holst, and it can also stack up with the bonus doubler status effect if you support him with Legendary Eliwood or Astrid. And having the guard effect is definitely going to be pretty nice as a mixed phase unit. He also has stats which go well with this weapon, so he's got base 41 speed, having a super boon in it, and also having good 43 base attack, so he can definitely hit pretty hard. His defense is definitely not that bad at base 35, and he also has resistant super boon, so if you're going to be running distant dart or distant counter builds, then I guess this could be opted so that he can tank mages a bit better. Now, the comparison to Yanfei is going to be really obvious. Yanfei is the last gen sword infantry unit which a lot of people built up as an arena score stick. Now, unfortunately, Yanfei faces a lot of problems because his weapon, even though it does have distant counter and damage reduction built into it, realistically against a lot of the top tier threats in tier 21 arena, he's not going to be having enough speed to really make use out of this kind of damage reduction. So he's only going to be using his raw stats for those matchups, and you can see that Duo Dagger and Ninja Korin at plus and merge, which you're going to be facing a lot in arena, they just kill Yanfei despite the weapon strangle advantage and despite all of your investment. Now, Holst comes in with this kind of weapon which does not have a distant counter built into it, but it does have the +5 spectrum stats which you can get, and you can also get even more stats with the bonus doubler. The guard skill is definitely pretty nice so that he doesn't get nuked by certain specials, and he does score more than Yanfei, making him a lot more optimal for arena usage because of his high scoring. Holst might not appear as fast as Yanfei, but keep in mind that Yanfei doesn't get any kind of stats out of his weapon. Holst is going to be able to be a lot faster with a speed buff, and he also hits significantly harder. And if you just want to compare his matchups, Holst against the same +10 Duo Dagger and Ninja Korin is able to survive and kill them, even if you're not going to be investing heavily with like attack speed Oath 4 or Vital Astro or anything like that. Just with a distant counter null follow-up build, he's going to be able to just kill them off, which is really good. And in this matchup, both of these units are fully buffed, and I do use Plus and Yanfei quite a lot, and even just fully buffing him and while running him with support with Ruse and the attack debuffs on the enemy, he can still die to a lot of green units, which is definitely a bit annoying because you kind of want him to take care of at least the green matchups. So yeah, unfortunately, the threats in arena are way beyond the speed tier of Yanfei to fully make use out of the damage reduction in his weapon. And Omni tanking is just not as good as before, despite having this kind of distant counter weapon, because units hit crazy hard and you need the effects in your weapon, which Holst kinda has with the guard and the bonus doubler. Holst also has attack speed ideal 3 at 5-star, which is going to be helpful if you're trying to get attack speed ideal 4 and another premium skill from a different unit like Monica for example. And he also has attack speed Oath 3, which is again helpful if you're trying to get the tier 4 version of the Oath skill and some other premium skill like from Male Chess for example. So even if you don't use him, he's still going to be a pretty good fodder at the very least, as these skills are going to be quite popular. And Holst's weapon is definitely pretty nice, but I wouldn't really say that it's insane because we just got Arcane Elutnir, which pretty much all sword units can make use of. And while his weapon does provide him guard, it is still essentially just a big stat ball, which is going to be susceptible to lull skills, dull skills, and the panic effect. But still overall, he is a solid free-to-play unit with a good preferred weapon and offensive stats to keep up. And he's also going to be having 190 BST after his first merge, so he can be a good free-to-play arena scoring unit for a lot of free-to-play players. And I'm also going to be plus in merging him, even though I have a plus in Yanfei. The matchups of Holst is just better against the arena threats, and he also scores higher, so that is always good. And guard is a pretty nice effect that is going to be helpful in arena and also for a mixed phase free-to-play god sword unit. Sword infantry units have a lot of competition, so if you've built up a couple of them, then you might not want to invest into Holst, because he's essentially going to be doing the same thing as a lot of the other units, being just fast and functioning as a free-to-play god sword. His weapon does have bonus doubler, which can make him into a stat ball, and also has guard, but still it's not the most insane weapon compared to a lot of weapons that we have on many of these sword units. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how they made Holst and gave him a preferred weapon, and also made him a Grand Hero Battle unit, so he's going to be taking less grails and if you wait for the Grand Hero Battle rerun, then it is going to be taking you even less grails, but the rerun is probably going to be happening in a year, so that is going to be a long time of waiting, but still, I guess if you're low on grails, that could help you. You can also build him up on a budget if you don't really plan on +10 merging him, so you can just give him the bonus doubler Sacred Seal and run a Link skill and reposition from Norn, and this is pretty good even if he has got the attack speed oath, so if he's not beside an ally at start of a turn, you can still give him the buff with this kind of Link skill. And Moonbow is a pretty nice 2 cooldown special instead of running the AoE special. And bonus doubler is essentially going to be his best Sacred Seal that he can run, because it could stack up with his weapon and just provide him with even more stats. But I wouldn't really recommend running like triple bonus doubler, because at that point you're putting all of your eggs in a basket, and that is just being really susceptible to a lot of the dull effects and the panic effect. So having a different slot, a skill like maybe Ideal skill or Unity skill, is a bit better in my opinion. And the natural progression of this build is going to be using the tier 4 version of these skills in attack speed ideal 4, which you can actually get from the divine codes, and attack speed oath 4 if you do decide to pull male Shez. And you can run null follow up in his slot B to make productive use out of his speed and stop all of the auto follow up attacks and the follow up negation effects. So this is definitely going to be the build which a lot of people are going to be running. You can also run him with a more expensive build with Vital Astra and Speed Smoke 4. So this build is a bit more self-sufficient because he can get the damage reduction out of the Speed Smoke 4 skill while still having null follow-up. And attack speed unity can definitely help you when he has got bonus doubler and he really depends on the bonus doubler stats to just function as a stat ball. So in case he gets panicked or if he gets some kind of debuff, the Unity skill can definitely help you. And Vital Astra is mainly here as a high damaging special because it can often just out damage Moonbow and Glimmer because he's going to be stacking up quite a lot of speed. And if you can pre-charge this with like Veluria or Infantry Pulse or just a lot of the special support, then he can just have more damage reduction right at the start of the combat. You can also invest into him with Velocity, which is available in this banner itself on his sister. So Velocity does have the Null Guard built into it, which means that he can trigger Vital Astra a lot easily, and he can essentially have 64% damage reduction with the Smoke skill and Velocity. This is not counting Vital Astra because he's not always going to be having Vital Astra pre-charged with this kind of weapon, which doesn't give him -1 special cooldown, and you can easily provide him with external null follow-up from Brave Trom and Infantry Speed Tactic, or from Lilith, or from Legendary Maid Violet, or from Ascended Celica and her Infantry null follow-up. So there are definitely quite a bit of options now to give external null follow-up. You can also use him with the Bulwark skill in case you inherited the Oath 4 skill on him, and he could function in Summoner Duels S as a frontliner or as a raid boss. A raid boss is pretty much a type of unit that you buff up with bonus doubler with Legendary Eliwood and give them a lot of stats, and they can be really annoying for the opponent to take down. And this works a bit better in Summoner Duels S because you can just ban Bridal Catcher teams, which are usually going to be taking down these kinds of tanks, and you can also ban Duochrome. So Bulwark skill is going to be helpful in Summoner Duels so that you can have that obstruct effect and also have the healing. So the healing is pretty nice for keeping him in the range of the ideal skill and also for his weapons threshold. Vital Astra is going to be a pretty good special if you can pre-charge it, and often a lot of times these kinds of teams are going to be running a bunch of support units to support a main unit like Holst, so that is definitely possible if you're a big fan of him. And you can just run Legendary Eliwood to give him even more bonus doubler, but keep in mind that you need to ban someone like Duo Thor who can just erase all of your stats and bonus doubler if she uses her Duo button. If you're a huge, humongous Holst fan, then you can also run Arcane Elutnir on him, and this allows you to run Godlike Reflexes a bit better because the -1 special cooldown of Arcane Elutnir is pretty nice, and it essentially gives you a pseudo null follow-up with its follow-up negation and the auto follow-up. So this allows you to run Shield Pulse in the slot B and pre-charge the special, and then you can run Flashing Blade so that you can just loop Godlike Reflexes and try to have it as much as possible pre-charged. So this is not going to get pierced by Deadeye or Lethality, which is definitely pretty great. And you can also get the damage reduction and the extra damage out of the special, and you can just combine that with the damage reduction from Speed Smoke 4. So he can definitely be pretty bulky with this kind of build, but definitely not something that is going to be cheap. Now, as for the arena builds, you can actually run a pretty cheap arena build by just giving him Attack Speed Ideal 4 and Rally Defense Res Plus from the Louise in the Divine Codes 3 and just running him with Null Follow-Up. The Slotsy skill is quite flexible here. You can just run his Oath skill or choose to run some other Slotsy skill. It really depends on you. But yeah, without investing any kind of trade fruits or any kind of really expensive skills, he can make this kind of Divine Codes holds for arena scoring. And he's going to be scoring 190 BST, which is definitely pretty good. But if you want to invest a bit more resources into him, then attack and speed boons are going to be really helpful, especially the speed super boon. And you can just run the tier 4 version of the Oath skill, which is going to be really helpful in arena for the teleportation. And you can also run Vital Astra just for the damage output really. And finally, you can also run him with Distant Counter. Like I showcased before with the damage calculation, he can take on Duo Dagger and Ninja Korin at max investment with a rather budget build with just Distant Counter and Null Follow-Up. But if you want to invest a bit more into him, then Distant Dart is of course going to be helpful with extra speed. And if you want to ascend an asset on a Distant Counter Holst, then Resistance is a super boon that you can choose to ascend. And that is definitely going to be helping him in a lot of mage matchups, especially against the +10 Ninja Korins, which are going to be really common. And you can just run Bonus Doubler and the usual Vital Astra for the damage output. You can also try and run Darting Breath actually so that you can retaliate back with Vital Astra, but Bonus Doubler is actually pretty nice as well for just making him a stat ball. Make sure to share this video with your friends if they're trying to build up Holst, and if you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a like and a comment. Helps me tremendously, and if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Bonus Doubler against a dull lol effect. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.